How did you meet Gestalt?
Well, my first training is a clinical psychologist, and I was trained in psychoanalytic and cognitive behavioural work. Neither involved the relationship at the time that I was training. Mm-hmm. And I tell a story about having a client who I was doing CBT with, and she came in on about session 7 of 20, and her mother had died unexpectedly. She was very, very upset and crying. And I had a moment where I thought, firstly, nothing in my whole training has prepared me to deal with emotion. Nothing. And secondly, I then thought, what about my treatment plan? You know, that this event interrupted my treatment plan. Mm-hmm. And the more I thought about those two things, I thought, neither of those things can be right. You know, I want an approach that can respond to people's emotions, and I want an approach that is flexible enough to adapt to things that are not in the plan. And I then went looking for a different sort of training, and at that point I had a colleague who was practicing Gestalt, and she suggested I go and talk to a Gestalt trainer that she knew called Malcolm Parlett.
Oh.
So I sort of, you know, I probably wrote or it was before email, I suspect. And I said to Malcolm, can we meet and can you tell me about this Gestalt thing? And I drove about 100 miles to meet with him. Mm-hmm. And he was a psychologist too. So that helped. And I said to him, well, you know, tell me about Gestalt and tell me why I haven't come across it in my training as a psychologist. And he said, I can't tell you about Gestalt. You will have to come and do some. He said, it's about your experience. Mm-hmm. Wow. And it was wow. And I thought it was the first time that I encountered an approach where people's experience was important. You know, and these days I would call that phenomenology and say it's the basis of the Gestalt approach. But as a psychologist, we didn't particularly get interested in people's experience. We got interested in their symptoms. Mm-hmm. So it was very different. And I then trained with Malcolm and Marianne Fry, you know, and it was unlike anything that I had come across. I found it theoretically the most difficult theory, you know, really, really hard. I always think Gestalt is such a complex, difficult theoretical approach to learn. And it was so personally demanding because it required me to think about myself rather than objectify the self of the patient. Mm-hmm. Yes. So it was completely different. And I loved it. I just fell in love with it.